go. Pilgrims, a very good morning to you on this, the final work day of the week. It is Saturday, the 7th day of June, into the first week of June as well. And I'm delighted that you're able to join us this morning to put a wrap on what I hope and pray was a really good week for you. Now you can start looking forward to a great weekend, hopefully, relaxing, and then head into a brand new week, refreshed and ready to take on the world. Pilgrims, 1 minute after the hour, let us start by taking a look at the rundown. You know, this being Friday, we usually sort of go off the beaten track. And this morning, got some interesting stuff for you. Another video that I want to share with you this morning asked the question, are today's youngsters being prepared for the future? Boy, that question is being asked over and over and over again. Well, I'm going to show you a little video this morning which I think can be considered motivational. The third video I'm going to share with you this morning is a video about China. We will take a quick look at China's road network, which has been described as becoming the 8th wonder of the world. Yeah. Boy, take a look, and you can only dream. When will you see that sort of road network here in the Spice Isle? Yet, for all I know, based on what we've been hearing through the grapevine, might happen. I don't know. Hello, Arthur. Arthur is there saying good morning. He says, last night was good and enjoyable show. That's right, Arthur. You tell him. Those who didn't see last night's edition of Make We Chat, you don't have to miss it. It's right up there on the webpage, Grenada Broadcast. Go check it out. Go check it out. Now, are today's schools preparing our youngsters for the real world? I'm sure that many of us will agree that this is not the case. And that's bad. But what is even worse is that many of today's youngsters have the talent and drive to create a bright future, not only for themselves, but for the world. Have you got youngsters in your household? Give them an ear. And listen for the next few minutes as one young man speaks to his mom and teacher about his future, trying to get them to understand where the future lies.
Your son is a failure. He's barely passing my class, and with grades like this, I'm just not sure what kind of future he's gonna have. What do you have to say for yourself? You're supposed to graduate this year.
Listen to Mr. Johnson. What kind of future do you think you're gonna have?
With all due respect, don't call me a failure. Failure is an event, not a person in fact. And you talk about the future, Mr. Johnson, but you're not preparing us for that.
Excuse me?
Just listen to what I'm saying.
This should be good.
Would you agree that in the future, most careers will become automated?
Yeah, so?
So the people who succeed will have to be curious, innovative, with resilience to adapt to new changes.
What's your point?
My point is, the focus in this school is not on that. It is on regurgitating information and test taking, and that's just real. But in today's world, creativity is the most important leadership skill.
Oh, that's how you feel.
You don't have to believe me. But maybe you will believe the 1,500 executives who recently said creativity is the most important leadership skill. See, pretty soon, no one will be hired because of what they know. Because who cares what you know or if you've memorized a fact? We've got Google and Siri for that. In the future, people will be hired because of what they can do with their knowledge. Can they creatively solve real-world problems, not just follow instructions or directions and bubble in multiple choice questions? So, Mom, that's why I'm stressed, because these robotic tasks we learn in school should stop. Because no one can do a robot's job better than a robot. Billionaire founder of Alibaba, Jack Ma, said that we should not compete with artificial intelligence, but instead focus on developing unique human intelligence. Mr. Johnson, drills are for teeth, not the human mind. So these repetitive knowledge-based tasks we must leave behind. Or in the future, you're gonna find a lot of people graduating out of your class right into the unemployment line. See, many top companies today don't look at grades. Mom, that old way is expiring. Google has been quoted as saying GPAs are worthless criteria for hiring. Founder of Tesla, Elon Musk, agrees. So I say this with unease and sorrow. If you continue to teach today as you taught yesterday, then you rob us students of tomorrow. Mr. Johnson, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Sometimes sitting in your class is tough. I'm constantly thinking, if I don't look up at the clock, maybe it'll speed up. So I listen to you do my work and pay attention, feeling like an hour had to have gone by. But it was only 3 minutes. So if you wonder why we're bored in class, look, you wanna get a kid to hate reading? Give them this, a school textbook. And some people think it's our fault, and that hurts me. They say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And to that I say no. Firstly, you can put salt in that horse's hay and make him thirsty. And if you bring joy in your classroom, you can make any bad student nerdy as he or she discovers the beauty of truly learning. Mr. Johnson, I mean no disrespect. You have the most important job on this planet. You build, create, and save lives. But if you really care about my future, like you say, then you have to fully commit and ask yourself honestly, how do I prepare a child for a future that doesn't yet exist? Here's a hint. The answer is not found in this. It's using this and this. See, in the future, we will need more passion and compassion. People with inspired hearts and wisdom to uplift this planet. And Mom, I love you, but can I be real?
Go ahead.
You want to know one of the biggest factors for childhood success? It's not IQ. It's family meals. And we haven't had one of those in a while. See, I know sometimes you don't feel proud, because I may not be a straight A student, but I'm not stupid. These tests may be 70% of my grade, but they're 0% of my future. But don't worry, I'll pass this class and get through this. But I need you to give me the space I need to be me and live true. Because the best feeling in the world is that your own parents get you. There's a passage in a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And if you don't mind, I'd love to share it with you.
Go ahead.
See, he says, your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, they do not belong to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow. So, Mom, I'd appreciate it if you give me the love that I need to pursue my dreams. See, if we are to succeed, all three of us need behavior change on all fronts. We talk about the future, but the future is now, and it is created now by all of us.
I've never heard you speak like that before.
Yeah, I didn't know.
But I'm going to reach out to administration and try to change some things. You have my word.
Makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Folks, having watched that, all I ask is that you give an ear to what your kids are saying. Granted, they may not always do things you like. They may get off into mischief. Hey, come on. As kids, you and I did. Huh? But please, listen to them. Listen. Now, just before I get into the piece on the China Road Network, I want to say good morning. Well, we've already said good morning to Arthur. Hi, Mags Fitzroy. Hi, Arthur. Hi, Peter. Hi, Donna. Hi, Kipling. Andy's smart. Andy, only last night I sent a little note to you saying I wanted to talk to you, and I still do. We need to talk real soon. Andy says, love the diversification in your programming, George. Lewis Hamilton's next race is at the Canadian Grand Prix on Sunday at 2:10 p.m. At 2:10 p.m. He is currently the championship leader. Andy, I get the gut feeling that you are another Lewis Hamilton addict, like my brother. My brother could tell you everything this guy has ever eaten or done. Jeez. Big fanatic. Big fan. Good morning, Yvonne. Yvonne says, good morning, Mr. Grant, so I guess I should say good morning, Miss Joseph. Yvonne Joseph, hi, how are you? Pele Darbo is there. Sharon Roberts says she's in Croydon today. Yes. Girl, I just wish you could hook up with Make We Chat friend who was on last night, Catherine Edwards. She's in Croydon, and she says it's wet and cold. Ashton Fletcher is saying good morning from Louisville in Kentucky. Now, I'll find a little piece. Creativity, drive, determination, and resourcefulness have taken China out of the doldrums and made it a world power to reckon with. Notwithstanding the politics, its military, its manufacturing, one of China's prized possessions is its road network, which some say is becoming the eighth wonder of the world. Take a look.
James and I got back onto what is fast becoming the eighth wonder of the world. China's road network. In 1988, China had no motorways at all. And now, 30 years later, it has 84,000 miles of them. That's more than any other country in the world. And they're only just getting into their stride. Since 2011, they've been building 6,000 miles of motorway every year. 6,000 miles a year! It beggars belief, and it's not like the terrain is easy. Here, though, there ain't no mountain high enough, and there ain't no valley low enough to stop them. This bridge, for example, is 34 miles long. And then there's this one, the Duzhe-Beipanjiang Bridge. You could fit the London Shard underneath it, twice over. I'm telling you, in Britain, we're doomed. We're doomed.
Oh boy, did you guys see what I just saw on social media? Margaret was looking at that piece about the China Road Network, and she says here, and I'm quoting for you, she says, stealing other people's intellectual property is more likely what got China there. Ouch! Margaret. There's somebody who speaks what on her mind. Ha! Yikes. Okay. I'll tell you what, folks. You all know that Georgie Porgy is very flexible. Now, Brian Pitt is supposed to be on today, and Brian Pitt will be on. Brian Pitt is there. It is now 23 minutes after the hour, and at this time we should actually be running the national report. You and I know that, okay? But I don't like to keep these big guys waiting. Brian's been sitting there for the last 5 minutes, very patiently. And I don't want to keep him waiting. So what I'm going to do is what I do when Baczynski comes on. Sometimes Baczynski asks to get him on a little bit earlier because he has to run off and do errands. So how about if I did that with Mr. Pitt this morning? Let me set up Mr. Pitt here. Take a look. See, there he is, poking his earbuds into his ear. Good morning, Mr. Pitt. How are you?
Good morning, George. I'm glad I'm in Mr. Baczynski's category.
You are honored.
I feel honored to be in the company of Alan, and now that I know the privilege that he has, I am hoping on a Friday morning the national report will be the last item.
Mr. I walked right into that. Mr. Pitt.
Yes, you did.
It is so good to see you, sir. How are things?
Great. I am sad and happy.
Before you tell me why you're so sad and happy, your distinguished visitors out there would really love, that's a little bit better. They would really like to see that charming face of yours and the fact that he's not. You need some blades? I'm only kidding. Just back a little bit so we could see the whole face. Yes, go ahead. Tell us why you're sad and happy this morning.
George, every now and then you have to change your appearance.
Oh yeah.
Wait until I buy a wig.
You don't have to buy one. Go ask Chester to let you have his old one.
He doesn't wear it anymore?
Nah, man, they stopped wearing them things. Too hot.
Oh, that's good. That's so good.
I guess that's one of the good things that came out of the CCJ referendum. There was so much talk about dropping the bonds of colonialism, and I saw the wigs were the first things to be dropped. Anyway, sit back.
Margaret, but Margaret is absolutely right.
Yeah.
And we forget. You see, we have short memories, George. We forget when everything was made in China cheaper than it was in the rest of the world, and they were duplicating almost everything.
Okay.
Including movies. As a matter of fact, there are some movies on the internet now that you can see the day after the release, and there's a lot of Chinese writing on it.
Made in China. Kung Fu.
Oh. No. The words that people speak are in Chinese at the bottom.
Okay.
So Margaret is right, and this is something that we have to go through. But George, I was on your website recently. And I read an article whose caption was the Commonwealth Secretary General outfit robustly framework to stamp out corruption. Robust framework to stamp out corruption. Am I right, George?
Yes.
Commonwealth Secretary General outlined robust framework to stamp out corruption.
Yes, I remember that.
George, for some time now, I believe that international organizations help to prop up democratic governments that have abused democracy. Yes, George?
Democracy is democracy still around, sir?
Democracy is under attack, and it's only under attack because some of these international organizations facilitate
exactly
the abuse of democracy. And I tell you why. When I read this article, I asked myself the question, working backwards: how much confidence do we have in our Integrity Commission? Shall I repeat that, George?
Yes, and sit back. Good.
How much confidence do we have in our Integrity Commission? And I became a politician for a day, George. And I said to him, I said, okay, I'm on a democratic island, and I am the leader of a political party. And I spend all kinds of monies, etc., through whatever means necessary, became the prime minister of that country. And I appoint, for sake of rooting out corruption, an integrity commission. But on that body, I put the majority of members who think like me and or are members of my party, George. So that the integrity of that commission is now in question.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you with me, George?
Yeah.
So when the Commonwealth Secretary General comes to Grenada, or wherever that was, in the 5th annual regional meeting of these commissions, I asked myself the question, what are we doing? Now, on that article I read from you, George, from your website, it says the cost to the global economy of corruption is approximately $2 trillion a year. Let me simplify that. So imagine a piece of road is being built from Tarantine to Grants, and that road should cost $1,000. But there is no tendering process that we can talk about because the tender board is now loaded with people who represent me and my government. I'm the Prime Minister, George. And one of my friends get a contract to build that road. Now the road should cost $1,000. But my friend wins a contract for the road to cost $2,000. Who is indebted for that $2,000? The country, George.
Yeah, man.
And I have great difficulty with some of these international organizations, and all of them, George, not only the Commonwealth Secretariat, but the IMF, the World Bank, all of them are in cahoots with these local governments that are abusing democracy. Hey, George? As a matter of fact, because of this abuse of the democracy as we know it, and the institution as it was meant to be, a lot of people around the world are getting fed up with governments that look after themselves and their enablers and special interests. And they are revolting by the ballot and electing some extreme right-wing governments who really don't fit the bill for democracy. And that's scary, George. And the funny thing about it is that those people who are running, like myself, don't forget I'm the Prime Minister, this democracy and abusing it, don't really care about tomorrow. All we care about is acquiring assets and value, and physical value that will set us for the rest of our lives. Friends and family must fly.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is frightening, George.
But that's the direction we're going.
So how do we change this? How do we change this, George?
Bring about a change in the mindset of the people. Because, Brian, what you're saying is true, but to a large extent, we allow it, my brother.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So, in other
But
words,
I don't.
we are part of the whole mess.
Yeah, and not only we, the powers that be are part of the commerce. And if I am the lone member of this commission that was appointed by some organization where the majority of people represent the interests of that particular individual or that particular government, I wouldn't speak up. So maybe some of the members of these commissions who got there and are considered to be independent thinkers should say, listen, guys, what you're doing is wrong. And if you don't change, I will resign. Unfortunately, a lot of these people stay on these boards and become part of the process. So they will object inside the meeting, inside the board itself. But that's the end of the objection. So it has to start with some of these individuals who sit on some of these boards and commissions, who are independent thinkers, reporting when they see something is wrong. Unfortunately, that is not happening. You're silent, George, and you have a sad face.
Yeah, I have a sad face, Brian, but I'm glad you brought that up this morning because, first of all, that piece that you saw me publish on the website there was sent to me by the Commonwealth Secretariat, okay?
Yes, yes.
Nothing wrong with that. But, Brian, it has gotten to the point, and please forgive me, but it has gotten to the point where when stuff like that comes in, I know they send it to me because they want it published. Okay, so I go ahead and publish it, gives fodder to people like you and a lot of other people. But Brian, when I see these things talking about corruption and fighting corruption, and most of them are coming from the most corrupt people in the world, they're fighting corruption. Brian, look, it goes in here and comes out there. I don't even pay attention to it. Because it's gotten to the point where you just cannot believe these people or take them seriously. It is all rhetoric. And it gauze my behind. It really, really gauze me. Couple of comments here. John Bruno says, how can she speak about setting the framework when she herself was the subject of a corruption probe? I see you nodding your head.
Miss Scotland.
Arthur Langine says that just happened in Carriacou. It is said that they paid $200,000 to clean a pond there. You heard about that one?
I haven't heard about that one, but it speaks again to tendering. Whether or not everybody was allowed to tender and you take the best offer.
It was in the media. $200,000 to clean the pond in Carriacou. Brian?
It is rampant, George. It is, and people are doing it openly these days. They have a right to do it.
Yeah.
So they're doing it.
We in power.
And there are no checks and balances to make sure, at least to expose some of these things when they come up. And that is sad.
Well, I wouldn't go that far as to say there are no checks and balances. Well, what are you doing right now? Huh? Okay,
and I am doing,
you're not officially designated a check and a balance, but you're bringing this to the attention of the people. And what happens? In here, out there, they don't care. Because come election time, somebody's going to pass around, pull out the little wallet, and, hey man, look, got your vote? That's just the way it works.
Sometimes we have to call out people, George. And we have to ask of organizations like the private sector organization, the trade unions, the teachers, whoever. Are we happy with what we see before us? Are we happy about the representation on some of these boards and institutions? And what can we do to change how these boards are made up? If you look around Grenada, I think you will see the same faces on a lot of boards for the last 30 years.
Yes, sir.
And I don't hear, maybe I missed it, the leading opposition group in Grenada, the NDC, talking about this thing, because maybe they don't want to upset the Commonwealth Secretariat. But they have to talk about these things. This is an issue, and corruption is a major issue. This lady is talking about $2 trillion in problems for these economies.
Mm-hmm.
It's a major issue, and I think we need to talk about it, and we need to talk about it loud in places that people can hear us. The opposition groups and the other interest groups have to take this up if they believe it is an important issue to bring to the forefront.
And I believe it is an issue, important enough issue. But like
and
I said,
while I was thinking about that, George, I ponder on how do people get their news these days? Because you're doing this program, and I do my little research on Facebook and YouTube, and I look at the number. I think they call hits or views.
yeah,
And for this program, you might have 6 or 7 views in a particular time, or 20 views, and there are some other things that have thousands of views. And when I look at the difference in content, I wonder, well, why are people clicking? So we would have to find a way, George, to get people to click. Maybe we have to get Donald Duck with a hairpiece.
No, hold on a sec, Brian. Very, very important point, and I'm glad that you brought it up. I do not. I rest my case. I just said to you that that's what the people out there want, the corruption. They don't want to hear what you and I are saying here this morning about the nonsense that was put out by the Commonwealth Secretariat. Nah, man. They want to find out where the next graft coming from. I ain't in that, Brian.
I know, George, but you remember, you spent some time in Canada. Remember a place called Honest Ed's?
Of course, Honest Ed, sure.
A major retail outlet. But Honest says from the time you walk in the door, you can find an item, and it was called a lost leader. A lost leader in commerce, George, is something that gets people in the door. Maybe we all have to put our heads together and find a lost leader. Something that will get people to click. Once they click.
Margaret says, Brian, you just hit you have just asked a very important question. How and where do people get their news? Brian, I ain't prepared to give the news they want. There's some decent people out there who want to hear the genuine concerns that people like you and I and these folks out there raise. And these are the people I'm catering to. You know, I mentioned this, I don't know if you were on the program when I mentioned this. A few years ago, you mentioned Canada. You ever heard of a guy named Gordon Sinclair?
Gordon Sinclair?
Yeah.
Yes.
Gordon was a very, very accomplished Canadian broadcaster. And I remember sitting with him in Montreal one day. And I had just gotten into the media, and I was a little bit concerned. I never wanted to get into the media, and when I did, I was worried that who the heck would listen to me? This was on radio, right? And he said to me, George, don't worry, they are listening. And then I said to him, but I will never have the numbers that, I'm not going to call names, that another person had. And that man said something to me that has stuck with me for the 46, 47 years, whatever, that I've been in this business. Brian, he said to me, he said, George, anytime you find yourself in the majority, it's time to reassess your position in life. I will never forget that. In other words, he's saying, when you have a lot of people listening to you, a lot of people watching you, forget it, George. Time to rethink where you're going. Yeah, never forgot that. SD Notap says, it has come so far that we accept it now as the norm. Time for change. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. 25 years ago, they were talking about fixing the landfill in Carriacou. I understand from my sailing friends that nothing has changed. John Bruno says, in Carriacou, the government set up a festival board who turning NGOs into GONGOs. I'm not sure. What is a GO? What's a GONGO, Brian?
I have no idea. You'll have to tell us.
Oh, he said he answers the question. Government operated non-governmental organization.
But you see, and he has a very important point, George. A few years ago, different groups of people started this whole NGO process. It was a way to get money into the communities outside of government. Government got wind of that and created their own NGOs.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm talking about, George, the abuse of democracy. And we have allowed it to happen. And international organizations have also allowed it to happen. So what happens now for this government NGO? It gets funding to do whatever it has to do from international organizations.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You remember when Jimmy Carter came here after Hurricane Ida? That is why we set up this commission, because Jimmy Carter, on behalf of whoever he was here, decided that he was not going to give money to the government agreement because it would be bad spent and not accounted for. So government set up a separate organization for Jimmy Carter to pass this money through. Jesus. That's how we abuse this whole democratic process and the institutions.
Well, I said it before and I'll say it again. I question whether or not this thing called democracy is still alive.
I think it's failing big time, George. And we should all be a little concerned that, or the younger people in the country should be concerned. Maybe that's the way they want it,
Yeah.
But, they have to be careful and they have to think it through.
What else, Mr. P?
George, just before I go, I was listening to a program recently, and these guys were kind of analyzing where the economy of the country, or the world is. And I heard you talking about education and whether or not our kids are being prepared for jobs or to be self-employed. And this came to mind that two of the biggest companies, Uber is probably one of the biggest car hiring companies in the world. They don't own a car. They do not own one vehicle. Yes, George. Airbnb is probably one of the biggest hotel organizations in the world. They don't own anything, any brick and mortar. George, we have to start rethinking our education process.
Yeah.
And educate our kids in such a way that that they can create jobs. And it speaks to how we project what will happen in the world 20, 30 years from now, and educate our children to suit. Because that's the only way they're going to win.
After I ran that little piece this morning about the youngsters, I suggested to parents that they listen to their youngsters because they do have a lot of ideas. And
yes.
I said that because I have had a lot of them come sit in the studio with me, and I'm just fascinated. I'm floored when I hear some of the dreams and aspirations of these young people. They want to see change. But Brian, what I'm still waiting to see clearly enunciated are the changes that they are proposing. Because yes, some of them have some good ideas which I believe this country, not just this country, but the world really needs. But Brian, some of these youngsters are prepared to take us to hell in a handbasket. Yeah.
I would not be so pessimistic, George. Let me tell you why.
There
are a bunch of youngsters who are not living in Grenada right now, who may be outside the country on scholarships or working or whatever. And they are gathering knowledge. And a lot of them will end up back in Grenada because a lot of countries don't really want them. They're the wrong color.
Yeah.
And since Trump and some of these extreme people, immigration is a problem. And for the United States, it is about the white survival, whether we like to believe it or not.
Yeah.
And the average white American feels challenged by people that are not the same complexion as they are.
Yeah.
So a lot of them will end up back here. with world experience and knowledge, and they're going to make the change. So I'm not surprised that we're not seeing them in leadership positions now. They're out there, George, and I think they will succeed when they come back and take us forward.
Well, Brian, something else. I mean, you, like me, you've lived in Canada for a number of years. And I'm sure that you're very acutely aware that there are a lot of Grenadians out there who have a hell of a lot to offer and want to come back. But Brian, when they see the TV that are going on in this place, they say, you're mad or what? You know?
Yeah, but it's a different, George. Somebody can move back to Grenada now and sit where I am sitting and run a successful business.
True. Margaret says, that's right, Brian. She's agreeing with something you just said.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Pitt. Now, since we preempted,
my happy and sad.
Pardon me?
My happy and sad moments.
We preempted the GIS National Report to get you on early.
I must leave now.
Scram. No, I'm.
Bye. Have a nice day, George. Oh, my Raptors won and West Indies lost.
Yeah, something, eh? So how many games do the Raptors have left?
It's now we've done 2-1. We won 2, they won 1.
Okay.
We're gonna win tonight.
We are tonight. What, Friday night? I hope you can take in that game.
So go to the GIS report, George, and the propaganda that you're gonna listen to.
Pardon me?
Go to your GIS report and promote the propaganda. Have a nice day, George.
I have to do my fair share. Thanks a lot, Brian. Have a nice weekend, bro.
Okay, guys.
Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
All right, there he goes. Mr. Brian Pitt. Mr. Brian Pitt. Okay, folks, it's now 10 minutes away from the hour. Let's take a quick little break here, and we're going to come on back with the National.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Boyo, they gonna fly with kite now. The wind picking up.
I'm coming. Karim, what you doing?
Fly my kite.
Yeah, but not here. You can't fly kite near power lines, boy.
Why not? The wind good.
Because mommy say kite threads conduct electricity.
Yeah, kite. He's right. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, you can cause power outages, or even worse, it can get shocked.
Come, let's go and fly them in the pasture.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kite threads conduct electricity. Do not fly kites near overhead power lines. This can lead to electric shocks and power outages. If your kite gets stuck in power lines, do not try to retrieve it. Release it and call GRENADAB. Always fly kites in open areas. Keep your kites far away from roads. And remember, always clean up after yourself.
GRENADAB, energizing our Grenada.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Commissioner of Police calls for private sector support for RGPF's plans to ensure safety and security during the hurricane season. Details to this story and more when we return. With the details to the news for today, Thursday, June 6th, I am Rikisha St. Louis. The RGPF's Chief Cop, Edwin Martin, says stakeholder collaboration is of critical importance in times of disaster. The statement was made during his presentation at the government's weekly post-cabinet briefing on Tuesday. Commissioner of Police Martin made a clarion call for support from the private sector to strengthen plans the RGPF has put in place for execution during the 2019 Atlantic hurricane season, should the country be impacted by a system.
We also seek stakeholder collaboration with persons who own heavy equipment to assist us with clearing roads that are critical to security, redeployment of personnel, as well as access to hospitals and other critical institutions.
Commissioner Martin says the dialogue continues to ensure the adequate number of heavy equipment needed is secured.
We have 2 persons on board at the moment. We need a minimum of 4. And what we try to do is to have a commitment that they will remain with us. So we do need some assistance there. In some areas, of the 2, one is a Bobcat, and I don't know if the Bobcat will be able to do all the push work that will be required. So we're trying to work through with the Ministry of Works that they may leverage their relationships to provide us with front-end loaders, because they have collaboration with persons in all of the districts. So when we collaborate with them, what happens in St. George's happens on the west, happens in Carriacou, happens on the east as well. So that's what we're trying to do.
Also outlined in the RGPF's plan is a clear approach to ensure that adequate checkpoints are established on all routes leading into or near towns, as well as static locations within the towns.
The intention here is to prevent our towns from being flooded with individuals in the aftermath where businesses may be compromised, to ensure that the security and integrity of businesses and places are well protected. Additionally, from within, we have static locations deployed to make sure that security problems do not erupt from within the towns themselves.
The RGPF, he says, is working along closely with the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, to ensure that all plans are properly executed in the unlikely event that a weather system impacts Grenada. The Grenada National Training Agency, GNTA, is in preparation mode for its first World Skills Competition, scheduled for June 18th and 19th at the T. Marisho Community College. The World Skills Competition aims to showcase the best local technical competencies among Grenadians between the ages of 17 and 25. Marketing and Communications Officer K. Julian Gutu says government is interested in the initiative that the GNTA has developed for Grenada, and the competition will also help with the development of the country's skill sets.
We in Grenada have some objectives that we want to put forward for the competition. So the competition has like 3 components, objectives for us: educational development, economic development, and marketing. So the educational component, we are hoping that the competition will help to streamline collaboration between industry. This is not a competition that the NTA is putting on alone. We are here because government is very much involved in it. The Minister of Skills, as you know, there's a Minister of Skills Development, Honorable Pamela Moses, and she's based in Ministry of Education. So Ministry of Education is fully behind that. They are our major financial supporter for this event. So they are the major financial sponsor. And so we are working with educational institutions, the government, and industry to put this on. So we are also engaging with private sector partners to exhibit, to put on, to be sponsors, etc.
The areas of focus for the competition include cooking, beauty, fashion design, and graphic design technology. Getting the participants to be involved locally will be a driving force for them to be represented internationally.
This year's participants most likely will not go because this is like our first time doing this. Most time they will not likely to go to WorldSkills Americas. But we will run the competition again next year, and we will be preparing. So this is like a pilot this year. And next year we will run the competition exactly as how it should be for the WorldSkills Americas, and then we will send those participants, the winners, to WorldSkills Americas to compete against.
This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
The countdown is on to Grenada's most exciting music festival. Friday, 7th June is Sol EC Limited Rhythm and Soul Night with Kerry Hilson, the legendary Freddie Jackson, Eddie Bullen, and Jefferson Ramirez. Saturday, 8th June is Wester Hall Rum Reggae Fest featuring Busy Signal, Maxi Priest, Kimani Marley, Tamara St. Bernard, and more. The festival climaxes on Sunday, 9th June with a George F. Huggins Soca Fusion featuring the All-Stars with Tennyson John and Blacks, Patrice Roberts, Wes Ways, Jab King, and more. Gates open 7 p.m., showtime 9 p.m. Advance tickets $80 Friday and Saturday, $60 on Sunday, and are available island-wide. Limited VIP and season tickets at Grenada Optical and GoToFet.com. Grenada Music Festival 2019. Get your tickets today. Sponsors: Silver Sands Grenada, Hennessy, the Antillian Group, Coca-Cola, St. George's University, Glen Elch Springwater, and Netherlands Insurance.
Welcome back. Acting Prime Minister Honorable Gregory Bowen received a courtesy call Wednesday from United States Ambassador Linda Tagliatella and other top officials. The areas of discussion included the upcoming visit by the U.S. naval ship Comfort and Grenada's preparedness for the 2019 Atlantic hurricane season, among other areas. The naval ship is expected to visit Grenada for a week in September, providing general medical, dental, and eye care for Grenadians. Principal Officer at the U.S. Embassy in Grenada, Mr. Stephen Fram, who departs Grenada this week, was among the officials present for the courtesy call. Minister Bowen thanked Mr. Fram on behalf of the government and people of Grenada for his 3.5 years of service and wished him the very best on his next posting. Mr. Fram's successor is expected to take up duty in September, but the U.S. officials have given the assurance that the embassy will continue to provide regular services in the interim. The Grenada National Council of the Disabled has donated equipment to NADMA to assist the physically challenged. The presentation of 2 wheelchairs, 6 paddle walkers, and 6 cushions was made on Wednesday to ensure that shelters are easily accessible for those with physical challenges. There are currently 110 emergency shelters in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. Hilary Gabriel from the Council of the Disabled spoke on the donation to NADMA.
This presentation this morning stemmed from a project with the CCDRMF fund, where funds was allocated to make sure that we have shelters made accessible for persons with disabilities and the elderly in the event of a disaster. And happy am I this morning to say that together with NADMA, we did what we were supposed to do. And we are proud to say that Dover Government School in Carriacou, and I'm happy that it's in Carriacou, is the first one to be fitted or equipped with wheelchair, accessible bathroom and toilets, rollators, toilet seats, and it is really accessible for persons with disabilities and the elderly.
Acting Disaster Coordinator Sylvan McIntyre expressed his sincere appreciation to the Grenada Council of the Disabled for the timely donation of the equipment.
We are really grateful for this generous donation for equipment that will assist our persons living with disabilities and the elderly who are likely to have access to the facilities that are created for them. It's an expansion of the enhancement of those facilities through the kind compliments of the Caribbean Canada Disaster Risk Management Fund, the CCDRMF. We are grateful for the upgrade of 14 of our facilities. As Ms. Gabriel mentioned, some of them have been enhanced with rail, bathroom and toilet facilities, and now to outfit them with this is just something that we are really, really grateful for.
That story just ended the national report for today, Thursday, June 6th. Let's recap the top story. Commissioner of Police calls for private sector support for RGPF's plans to ensure safety and security during the hurricane season. On behalf of everyone here at the Government Information Service who made this newscast possible, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Alrighty, folks, the National Report's going to bring the curtain down on the Friday edition of Gudday-Grenada. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. But before we go, very important, parting word from the Holy Scriptures. Galatians chapter 6, verses 7, 8, and 9. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Whoever sows to please their flesh, from the flesh will reap destruction. Whoever sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Galatians chapter 6, verses 7 to 9. And my dear friends, let's see here. John Bruno says we need to take a look at Cuba's plan. For years we're spending millions and millions of dollars with little results. Hey, John. Thanks. Pilgrims, Georgie Porgy is going to take off. Has to go run some errands. Thanks again for joining me. And please, you should see the lineup for Sunday morning. It's going to be interesting. So please be sure to join us Sunday morning at 9 for the next edition of Sundays with George Grant. God bless you.